Canada loves you so much. You know that. They've shown you a lot of love over the years, man.
No, no
Is
doubt.
this weird? Is this weird right now? I mean, 15th album, 35 years of putting out, over 35 years of putting out albums. And this one, I mean, some of the process might have been the same, some have been different. Can you take us through that and what it's been like for you?
Oh, sure. I mean, it's most definitely different. Specificity of all the songwriting, in light of what's going on, is unique to this period in time. Even if you'd always said, "Oh, I was on my journey and I'm writing songs about life as I'm living it," this is more communal, and this is my bearing witness to history. And so I approached it ultimately differently than I had any other time. Um, had I pitched you this 2020 as we know it now, even 6, 8 months ago, you would have thought, boy, what's he smoking? But because it's so surreal, I intended to do a tour and put a record out and, do what it is that we do. Never in a million years did I think that this would all be in jeopardy, and record making as a whole, might not ever be the same again. But that
Yeah.
people's lines of work and, their career paths may all be different going forward. Who knows?
Yeah, and that process for you would be, yeah, as you mentioned it, you would put out the album, drop the album, and then go support it. Is this the longest you've been in one spot for your entire career over the past almost 40 years, would you say?
Not really. There have been periods where we weren't working, and when I have a sane enough moment to remember that, it sort of calms me down. But having had a year off when you expected to be working was jarring.
Mhm.
And to be honest with myself, I wonder aloud, when we can go back to work, will I? Or, or will I just be champing at the bit? I don't know yet. I don't know if anyone knows yet.
Yeah, and that's what this time did for a lot of us, right? Is kind of really that reflection, and you notice it in the writing with these songs and on this album 2020 is, do what you can right away, right there is just, it speaks to everybody, just like literally do what you can. And that song to you and those lyrics, where did that come to you from?
Well, what happened is we have 3 community restaurants in New Jersey that my wife and I have had for a decade now. And at the beginning of COVID, we wanted the in-need population to know that they could still come for food. But our model is based on volunteerism, and we could no longer let volunteers in. So I was back behind the sink washing dishes the way I was when we were a pilot program a decade ago. She took my picture so that we could share with the population that we'd be there for them. So when she asked me for a caption, I really think that she was asking me for hours of the day and days of the week. But I said, if you can't do what you do what you can. The next morning, I went, well, there's a big old Bon Jovi song title. So I wrote the song and quickly realized that anyone everywhere was living this moment in time together. China to Africa to Australia was experiencing this. So I put a verse and a chorus out there, and I said, write me a verse. The song was written as you know it now. So there's no question about, collaborating with 6,000 people. But the idea of each and any one of them writing a verse so that I could pick some off the internet and sing it back to them, I knew it was that kind of song of inclusion. Unlike anything ever. Songs are open to interpretation. Living on a Prayer, Tommy and Gina are your buddies and my buddies. They're fictional characters, and there's everybody's best friend. COVID was reality. There's nothing exaggerated in that song. Nothing.
Have you, I'm just trying to go back through the catalog, which is massive, and congrats on that. But have you gotten to this point, you're using music to channel these thoughts, these passions of yours, and you've been doing the philanthropy thing. As you mentioned, you've had the kitchens for 10 years. When you look at something like that, some artists do, some artists don't, and decide to put their voices out there and use it for good. Why do you continue to do that, and especially through the music and channeling it that way?
Well, part of it, Devo, is like you'd said a moment ago, and I've been blessed to have had this long, long, long career. So at 21, this would not have been my focus. At 25, it was not my focus. I happen to be 58 and I grew up in public. So this is who I am now. People have gotten on the ride at different times in their lives or off the ride. The ride continued, and this is where I'm at. So I'm not afraid to share who I am, and I'm not trying to be something I'm not. You know, I've gone gray, for God's sake.
I'm trying to find it, brother. I feel you.
But the big, the thing is that what I realize is by being true and just being me, that's the best thing I can do is to be me. Because then nobody's ever gonna call you out for it. You know, if I'd come in with jet black hair, you'd be going, well, Grecian Formula 99 or Botox and my face looking like this on a I'm not gonna do that.
You'll be the commercial to be like, your beard is weird, your trash is stash. We don't need that. You're right, though. It is. You know, when you're your true self, people can appreciate that. And Limitless kind of has that optimism of it. You know, tell us about that track.
Well, Limitless took on a different meaning between when it was written in just the idea of it being optimistic, and then when COVID hit, and then I put it as the first single and the first track on the album. Because if for nothing else, while we were waking up in another scene from the Truman Show, I realized, okay, people, time to wake up, you know? Is get that morning slap across the face and go, I gotta put pants on, for God's sake. You know, it's time to go and face the world. And to find that optimism, which is a trademark of the band, was a good way to start the album. Here's the statement. Okay, wake up. We're coming out of this. It is, in fact, 2020. But let's start it with a good, cold, fresh slap across the cheeks.
And the album is a journey, and you're telling a story. What kind of story is it that you want, or how do you want, or hope? I mean, like you said, it's always up for interpretation, but how do you hope the audience is going to take it in?
All I want the audience to remember is that I said I'm witness to history. I'm not taking sides. The subject matters aren't always easy. There's a lot of tough subjects, but I didn't take sides. I just cited the facts. And like the old show Dragnet when I was a little boy, just the facts, ma'am, just the facts. You know, and I'm Detective Friday. Because to me, there was a lot going on. And it doesn't mean that the left is better than the right or the right's better than the left. It's just to cite, this is what's happening, folks. And if this happened in your town, how would you feel?
Yeah. And, you know, American Reckoning is such a powerful track, man. And as you saw that unfold and you put it down on paper, obviously, and into song, you know, what was going through your mind and your heart at that time?
I welled up with tears when I first heard his friend speak of, in George Floyd's dying breaths, he was calling out for his mom. It's a big, strong man face down on the street in Minneapolis calling for his mom. I mean, that made my eyes well up. And, you know, we've seen this before, and maybe it's because of COVID or for whatever reason, the moment has turned into a movement, and the movement is resonating, and the cause is just, and the light shining on it is bright enough that I hope it's going to resonate. So I set out to write a song. I didn't know if I was going to share it with anybody, you know? And at first it was my wife, and she said, really good verse, chorus isn't good enough. And that process went on and over and on and over. So I played it a number of times and rewrote it a number of times until I ultimately got it right. And I talk about white privilege, and I talk about my never having to walk a mile in those shoes, and, you know, and the things that are truths. And the title American Reckoning is just what it is. It's just the facts. We are reckoning this moment.
It is, man. Well, you know, I know we got to wrap up. Story of Love. It's brilliant. I love that track, and I love that just what it means and what it stands for. John, honestly, the album's great. We're glad that you are giving us a bit of a snapshot of your world and being very honest about 2020 with us, man. I do appreciate that.
I really appreciate it, Devo. All the best to you, brother.
Thank you. You too. And for real, I can't play that guitar. It's just there for us.
I show you 3 chords that change your life. 3, that's all
Next
you need.
time we're doing it.